Military historian Air Marshal Arjun Subramaniam has chronicled India's wars since 1947. In fact, he's an authority on all of India's wars since independence. His recent book, however, is a departure from military history. It's a biography of former Northern Army Commander Lieutenant General Rustam Nanavatty. The book is called Shooting Straight, and Air Marshal Subramaniam just joins me on the show right now. Air Marshal Subramaniam, welcome to the News9 Plus show.
Thank you very much for having me, Sandeep. Always a pleasure to chat with you.
Always a pleasure to talk to you as well. Why a biography on Lieutenant General Nanavatty?
That's an interesting question. And a lot of people have asked me that because, that truly is to my mind, that is intriguing and that was a challenge. So look, Sandeep, for the last few years, it's not that I've put aside my air power hat, but I have predominantly worn a military historian's hat. And after finishing India's Wars 1 and 2, I was looking for a vacant space to occupy and a fresh idea. And that's when I realized that military biographies have been very rare over the last decade or so, and particularly so from the generation of officers who were commissioned after 1947.
Yes.
And that's when I started looking around saying that, look, why can't we have the military biography of an accomplished and outstanding military commander? Why only politicians, diplomats, bureaucrats, scientists, film stars, sportsmen? Why not any military leader? And what made it easier for me to zero in on General Nanavatty was that General Nanavati spent a lot of time talking to me during the writing of my second book, which was Full Spectrum, that looked at conflict from 72 to 2020, that coincided with large portions of his own career. And when I put everything together with his meticulously maintained records, his photographic memory, and his excellent articulation in long interviews, I said I have a perfect narrative for a biography. And I think that challenged the storyteller in me.
Challenge the storyteller in you, and Air Marshal Subramaniam, you're an excellent storyteller, I must say. I'm a big fan of your books. But tell us how relevant General Nanavatty's strategic vision is today, given the evolving threats from China along the LAC and this continued Pakistan-sponsored militancy in J&K.
Okay, so there are three strands to my book. The three strands to my book are as relevant today as they were 20 years ago when he retired. And the three strands are soldiering, leadership, and strategy. And since you particularly asked me about strategy, I will concentrate on that over the next minute or two. So, a number of General Nanavatty was not a strategist, but he possessed a keen strategic mindset. And that is why when he was Corps Commander of 3 Corps in the Northeast, that was a time when the Naga ceasefire was holding, but rather tenuously. And that was when the embers of the Manipur conflict were becoming more and more difficult to handle. And he predicted in 1998 to the then Home Minister that if you don't pay attention to Manipur, Manipur is quickly going to go out of control and become a greater problem for the Indian state to negotiate as compared to the Naga problem. And I think his prediction was quite prescient. Let's move on to J&K. So General Nanavatty served in J&K during 2 tumultuous periods. The first one was when the insurgency or the covert war in J&K was transiting from a Kashmiri-trained militant flavor to a Pakistani militant trained flavor wherein the Lashkar and the Jaish started ruling the roost. And that was the time when General Nanavatty was a hawk in his approach towards managing matters in Jammu and Kashmir, looking at crushing the terrorist movement. Fast forward 10 years later, he came back as the army commander. And now he came back more as a realist, in which he said that apart from waging a relentless covert war against Pakistan, one also has to chart out a roadmap for peace. And in 2002, at the height of Op Parakram, he crafted a strategy which is called the Strategy for the Resolution of Conflict in J&K, strands of which you will read in the book. And unfortunately for him, the political establishment, except for Mr. Jaswant Singh and N.N. Vora to some extent, none of them really looked at that strategy very carefully. However, some of his successors in Northern Command argue that that was the best strategy document that they have ever seen for the resolution of conflict in J&K.
Right. And, Air Marshal Subramaniam, you mentioned how far-sighted he was, General Nanavatty, but the fact is that he was also someone who mentioned that the removal of Article 370 was very essential for restoring peace in Jammu and Kashmir, but that was also contingent on good administration. Do you believe we are closer to realizing his vision of J&K minus Article 370?
I think so. In a recent discussion that we had at the, during one of the book launches, he did mention this again. He said, look, when a government executes a far-reaching move such as this, and suggests that there may be a way forward and a way to restore normalcy in terms of statehood and things like that, I think what he suggested is that we cannot afford to stop this process halfway. We need to go whole hog, and we need to let the people know that we are serious about living up to whatever we have promised.
Living up to whatever we've promised, indeed. And that was Air Marshal Arjun Subramaniam. Thank you very much for joining us, Air Marshal Subramaniam. Wish your book many sales. You can read more about this in the biography of Lieutenant General Nanavatty, out in the bookstores now. It's called Shooting Straight. It's authored by Air Marshal Arjun Subramaniam.